Hello there, this is Tamika Hall here, and you are tuned into another how-to video in our ministries DIY series. I think it's really important for when you have your own worship arts ministry for you to be able to market your ministry in order to take it to another level and to take it to more people, because that is what we are doing when we are kingdom building. So today we're going to talk about the power of hosting your own podcast or radio show. And of course, this is going to be specifically for those that are interested in doing something faith-based. But this information is great for anyone that may have a business that you want to take to the next level. There really is power in your hosting and producing your own show. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this show is because I had a lot of people, they've been asking me over the last few months. And so I said, okay, I am going to put all of those answers in one place. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the power of hosting your own podcast show. Let me tell you about my experience. I initially became aware of the ability to host my own show back in 2009, and that was because I was actually asked to be a guest on somebody's show because of my book, Love Doesn't Leave Bruises, which is a book about teen dating violence. And so that was my very first experience with that. And I was very excited about it. And then I found out about this thing called Blog Talk Radio. And while I was there, I realized that I too could launch my own show. And so I initially started with a show where I actually was able to pull in multiple guests, and we were able to talk about how to overcome teen dating violence. And that's because that really was my personal platform at the time in my life. So to fast forward to 2013, the Tamika Hall radio show really has been going strong for several years. It's given me the ability to be known in terms of having a radio show that is actually legit, if I should say. But God began to shift me and to shift my direction, and I began to really look at my website, tamikahall.net, and I was looking at the fact that I had this podcast. I realized, okay, I've written 12 books, published them as well, and people knew me for those things, but nobody was visiting my website. And as a matter of fact, in December, I looked at my stats and I realized, wow, I only had 1,411 people actually visit tamikahall.net. Now, in that time, I had started several other website properties that had garnered well over 60,000 different views. And I was like, what is the problem? Why aren't people visiting my website? And with them not visiting my website, they couldn't tap into the books I'd written. They couldn't tap into the t-shirt line that I designed, all those things. And I'm like, I'm more than just the radio voice. But God began to kind of download into me, and basically he showed me his God strategy, which was that podcasting was going to be the way that I would be able to reach multitudes of people, because my vision has always been that my ministry would be global. So in January of just this year, I launched the Exploding Worship Arts podcast because I knew that God was calling me to begin teaching about worship and the worship arts, and the fact that what we do as worship artists, it should be deeper than just standing before the people and dancing or singing or acting. So I launched the Exploding Worship Arts podcast in January. Now, let me just put it into perspective for you. December, I only had 63 views, visits of my website. For that whole entire year, I only had a little over 1,400. I launched my show in the middle of January, and I started doing the podcast and started interviewing really great people that really felt the same way that I did about worship. And at the end of January, which really was about a 2-week period, I had over 4,000 people visit my website. Now, these are not just 4,000 people that just kind of came and viewed the site. Those were over 4,000 unique visitors from around the world. February, that increased to 5,125 unique people that visited. March, I had 8,507 people. April, I had 9,455 people, that unique people from around the globe that came to my site, and it was because I was offering something that they really wanted. So let's get into where the power of podcasting comes from. First of all, podcasting is my number one. I understand this now. And because I have the traffic, I'm able to expand and to do other things. But it is the number one way to drive traffic to my website. And because of that, I firmly believe that when you are producing great content, that people yes, we should be able to make a living, but people don't want to have to pay for everything. And honestly, they shouldn't, because a lot of things that we've learned, we've acquired it because we just simply searched on the internet, right? Or it's been by trial and error. So while I do agree that some things you will have people, you can put a dollar amount on some things, I'm telling you that people love free content, and it makes them want to connect with you even more. So when you give them more of you, and you give them great guests. So you plus really incredible guests who also have an audience, right? So you have your own audience. Your guests will come with their own unique audience who believe in them. That is going to produce massive traffic for you. And that's great because especially if you're in ministry, or even if you have a business of ministry, you need traffic. You need people to know that you even exist. So that is one of the powerful things about hosting your own podcast or radio show. The second thing is it's really marketing at the speed of sound. I know that doesn't make any sense, but I love it. Your podcast is literally, it gives you the opportunity to have a virtually free mechanism for reaching people around the world. Because of my podcast, and I know this because I have since then, I have my own phone app that is connected to the podcast, so people are able to listen to it right from their phone. I now have people that download my show in Indonesia, Malaysia. We've seen it in Russia. The show is now distributed in Germany, Australia, Nigeria. And those are just the names of the countries that are just popping from the top of my head. The United Kingdom, and clearly from around the United States. But it allows you to be heard and for people to know what you're doing and what is important to you, and the fact that you are hosting a show or you're podcasting about your passion. So it's marketing at the speed of sound. And like I said, it really can be it's almost free for you to be able to have your own show. It's really not as expensive as people would think. The third thing, and there's really a lot of them, but I wanted to give you the top three. The third reason why podcasting or hosting your own radio show is so powerful is because it allows you to establish your credibility. This gives you the ability to be known in your field as somebody, as an expert. So, for example, when I wrote my book, Love Doesn't Leave Bruises, which was a teen's guide to overcoming dating violence, from that podcast, my book is now distributed around the world. It is used. It's used actually in drug and alcohol facilities. Even though I wrote it for teens, adults are reading the book and utilizing it. Drug and alcohol counselors are using that. It's being used in teen dating violence agencies around the globe as well. And that really came because I established myself as an expert. Not only did I have the book that I'd written, but now I had a podcast where I was interviewing other experts who could also give their opinions about what we could do for that. So when it comes to your ministry, what is it that you need people to know you for? For me, I want people to understand that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the worship arts, but more so than me just standing in front of people, or me sitting behind the radio show and me just speaking about it all the time. I love drawing in other worship arts ministers because we can really learn from each other. It's really a great mechanism. So I want to ask you, what is it that you need? Are you thinking about the fact that you need to drive traffic to your website? Because hello, I am the perfect example of that. I had 63 people that visited my personal website in December, and now it's the top of May, and I am garnering, at this point, I'm averaging more than 3,000 unique visitors each week. So we're just barely into May, and I've already had that for this month. Are you needing to market your business or your ministry? Again, this is marketing at the speed of sound. So it gives you the opportunity to market what you're doing. Then you get to market other people. And really, at the end of the day, it's about kingdom building. And I love it. My assistant, Monica, says this all the time. It's about us making noise for the kingdom. So that's what this is all about. Is that what you're wanting to do? And when you're able to gain traffic, You also can monetize your podcast. And that's something I didn't even talk about, but you can monetize that. People are willing to pay for airtime on your show when you can show that you actually have a listener base. I mean, I don't think that when you start it, it should necessarily be for that. I think that if you can podcast about your passion, you can do a radio show around your passion. I do believe that being able to monetize that will come. I think it's important to think about it from the business standpoint because again, podcasts and being a radio host and producer, it can cost money, but if you know what you're doing, it should not cost you an exorbitant amount of money. Are you wanting to establish your credibility? Are you a minister and you know that God has called you to be able to go around the world and to speak and to help other ministries, but they don't know who you are yet? Is that what you need? Is to establish that? Do you need to expand the reach of your content? Are you like me where you wrote a book and you need people to know that it even exists, right? So you need people to understand that again, you know what you're talking about and that you are an expert because you've written a book, right? Are those some of the things that you're needing? I have created a class, how to create your own faith-based radio show or in podcast. The show is going to be taking place, the class will be taking place at the end of May, on May 27th. We will be holding the very first class. I'm only opening the class up to 10 people. So if this is something that is interesting to you and you kind of want to know, well, Tamika, how are you able to make it so that you have over 100,000 listeners around the world? That's none of my doing. I mean, that really happened. It was a God thing, but God gave me strategy for that. And so if you want to learn what that strategy is to gain your credibility, to market your ministry or your business, then I'm going to encourage you to take this class, okay? So again, I'm only opening it up to 10 people. The first class is complimentary. So I'm only opening it up to 10 people. The standalone class will be for a small fee. But for the first class, I am going to offer it to 10 motivated people who are willing to leave the class and actually do something and get their podcast up and running. So there you have it, the power of hosting your own podcast and show. I really hope that this was enlightening for you. I had a really great time being able to share with you. And until next time, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay blessed. Make sure to visit me at www.tamikahall.net.